When the topic of the greatest developers of all time is in discussion, one name that's bound to pop up is Rare, especially if the person you're talking to is over 35. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. They're responsible for some of the most influential and beloved video games of all time. This is a really weird sports game. Now everyone agrees that Rare's golden era started with Donkey Kong Country, but before DKC, Rare had already amassed a large resume consisting primarily of NES games. Not many are remembered these days, outside of... But everyone's gotta start somewhere, and today, I figured I'd take a gander at their first game, to see how far they've come. Well, that sure is Slalom. Alright everybody, thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, maybe we need a game that's a bit meatier. Good thing I went grocery shopping today. Let's take a look at Rare's second game, Wizards and Warriors. The first thing that stood out to me was how big the levels were. Rather than completing the level by getting from point A to point B like other platformers of the time, this game puts a lot more emphasis on exploration. In order to progress to the next stage, you need to find a boss who's hiding behind a door that requires a key. This in turn makes Wizards and Warriors more of an adventure game than a traditional platformer, and I think that's to its benefit. I found scouring the level to find the keys to be quite enjoyable, not only because you're pretty athletic for a guy in a suit of armor, but because of how rewarding it is to do so. Take the common collectibles for example. Each stage is littered with shiny gems that are satisfying to collect. And I'm not just saying that because, ooh, shiny, but because they actually serve a purpose. You see this guy? He's usually guarding the final door to the level and won't let you through unless you have a certain amount of gems. You can't kill him either, believe me, I tried. So while you're looking for the key, you're still making progress by collecting all the shinies you can get your hands on. And when you do find the key, not only do you get access to more rooms, you can also unlock chests of the key's corresponding color. Some of them shower you with gems, now that's the epitome of dopamine right there, or contain some items to help you on your way. The potion of levitation lets you float a bit into the air, which doesn't sound too impressive, but you can also jump out of it to reach higher platforms, which is great. The feather of feather falling lets you control where you land and allows you to... And the boots of lava walk are really comfy. Now one small downside to the larger levels is the potential to get lost. Now I didn't find any of the stages to be cryptic, in fact most of them I was able to finish without dawdling for too long, but the few times I did find myself wondering what to do still weren't pleasant. There's this part in the fire caverns where you have to make this really long jump, but no matter how hard you try, you can't make that jump. So what's the solution? Is there an item in a chest you need? Is there another way around? Do you need to call an Uber? Nope. You need a potion that's dropped by enemies at random that lets you jump high enough and continue the stage. Maybe I should have noticed these effects when I grabbed them earlier, but I don't know. I didn't really feel that different outside of maybe a boost in speed. Besides, it's pretty dumb that the solution is to keep killing enemies until one drops the potion you need, but whatever. Then there's the castle you need to climb. I got all the way up there and found... the holy hand grenade? Well, at least now I have something to vanquish the beast in my house. But I didn't find the key on my way up here and couldn't progress. So in a bout of brilliance, I decided to fall all the way back to the bottom, climb the castle again except this time stick to the left side of the screen, and wow, would you look at that, the key's right there. Turns out the right side of the castle was the wrong one after all. I am not sorry. But either way, it wasn't too bad. I never had to look up a guide, and as long as you're persistent, you'll make it through just fine. Unless you're dead. And trust me, you will be. In-game, that is. I mean, you will eventually be dead, but... Okay, this got depressing real quick. Look, I just meant you're gonna die a lot in this game, okay? So, you're going through forests, caverns, and a castle filled to the brim with monsters. But that's okay, because you're equipped with a mighty sword to slay all of your enemies. Too bad you're as proficient with it as I am in real life. The combat is where the game falters for me. This may well be the least satisfying sword I've ever used. It feels more like I'm using a pool noodle. Now you can jump and do this upward strike, which is pretty handy against aerial threats, sometimes. You can find the axe or dagger from chests which grant you a projectile. I mean, you can only fire one at a time and they're not that big, but hey, they've still got their use. And you can do this intimidating combat pose. But overall, you're not exactly the most capable knight in the world. But hey, this game's focus is more on exploration, so it's not that big of a deal, right? Well, it wouldn't be if this game didn't have such an obnoxious gallery of enemies. During my playthrough, there was a significant amount of times where I got hit by something I had absolutely no time to react to. Sometimes it was a projectile from an enemy off screen, sometimes I ran into an enemy I couldn't see until it was too late, sometimes it was from horrible hitboxes. Seriously, how the hell did I take damage there? What, did I suddenly become allergic to air? But by far the worst were the flying enemies. There were so many times where I was just minding my own business only to get blindsided by a flying enemy I had absolutely no way of avoiding. It's bad enough your arsenal isn't that useful, but when you add on an overabundance of flying enemies that love to ambush you, it quickly becomes frustrating. Heck, even when you do see them coming, they can still be annoying because of how small and fast they are. By far the worst are the fireballs. They're relentless, they move incredibly fast, love to pop out of areas you can't reasonably attack them in, and pull off maneuvers that make taking a hit almost inevitable. It's almost like they home in on you. Oh, and they also love to ambush you, so even if you had a better weapon, you wouldn't make it unscathed. Now, one thing I've neglected to mention are the magical items you can use in combat, mainly because I never figured out how to use them. Like, come on, you can't just give me a horn and expect me to know how to use it. When I beat the game, I looked up the manual and learned that you use them by hitting the select button. Okay, in hindsight, I probably should have tried that given that there's only 4 buttons on the controller. But for the sake of fairness, I did a second playthrough to use them, and the results were kind of underwhelming. The Boots of Force are cool. I mean, in terms of combat, all they do is let you kick, which is fine, I guess. Unless we're talking about the boss fights, good grief. But the best thing about them is that they can unlock any chest without needing a key. Now that's awesome! Too bad you're likely to lose it whenever you pick up another item that replaces it. Now the manual does say that you should leave some chests unopened to keep the items you want, but how am I supposed to know what chest holds what? There's no way of knowing until you open them. If you're in the same level, you can go back and retrieve the item you were holding before you grab the new one, but once you leave the level, if you pick up an item that replaces the one you currently have, chances are you're not getting that item back. Thus, I didn't get to use these boots for long. The Staff of Power fires 4 projectiles that spread out, and it seems really useful at first, but in practice, For one, I don't like having to move my finger to the select button to fire it. I know it sounds dumb, like what, you also find it hard to reach for the remote right next to you? But I just don't like moving my fingers off the A and B buttons, it doesn't feel natural. Plus, it made it so that I accidentally pressed the pause button when I tried to fire it, which was pretty annoying. Its projectiles do spread, so it's got that going for it, but I didn't find it much more useful than your main weapon. The Wand of Wonder works the same, except it only freezes enemies in place. I guess it's good against larger enemies, but not much else. The shield blocks projectiles if you're standing still, which is nice, but doesn't do a damn thing against the flying enemies. The horn locates secret rooms, which is cool, but it's only really useful for one stage and doesn't hurt any enemies. That would have been pretty funny, but alas, 'twas not meant to be. And finally, the Cloak of Darkness makes you invisible. Ha! Those fools! They're never gonna know what hit them. So yeah, sadly these items aren't gonna stop you from hearing the horrific low health music. Get used to it, you'll be hearing it a lot, and you won't be free of its torment until you taste the sweet release of death. Or meat. That works too. To pivot off the difficulty for a bit, I do think the graphics are pretty good. I like how the locations look, especially the castle and the caverns, which look real nice. I'm a simple man. I see a place that's shiny, I clap. Though a bit more location variety would have been nice, since it does repeat the forest and caverns for some of its levels. But other than that, no real big complaints here. The music courtesy of David Wise ain't half bad either. Yes, David Wise was working with Rare as far back as 1987. That's pretty neat. It's atmospheric and fits well with the medieval setting. I don't think it's an OST I'll revisit often, there's no real standout track, most of them are pretty short, and the soundtrack isn't that big to begin with. But outside of Will you shut up? I found the OST to be decent. There's the castle exterior, which sounds real pretty and full of mystique. The dark and mysterious sound of the Caverns, my personal favorite of the OST. And the boss theme, which may be the most rubbing your hands together with an evil smile theme I've ever heard. Sounds more mischievous than intimidating to me, but I guess it's fitting considering how pathetic these bosses are. Yeah, surprisingly the bosses aren't nearly as dangerous as the common enemies. Some of them look pretty cool, like this purple ghost and the skeleton that starts out small and gets bigger as you attack it, which I thought was pretty funny. We've got some floating heads. Sure. And we've even got a giant bat and a giant... But none of these guys are threatening unless you're already close to death's door. They have very simple attack patterns and go down pretty quickly. Plus, if you die to them, you start at the beginning of the fight with your health replenished. But you know, I guess I should be grateful that the game gives you a bit of mercy. So to recap, the game is chock full of annoying enemies, your weapons were forged by Hasbro, and worse yet, you only get 3 lives with no way to earn extra. Gee, it sounds like this is one of those old school hard kinds of games, right? No. Not at all, actually. You see, the boss fights aren't the only mercy the game grants you. Take a look at what happens when you do lose all of your lives. Yup, you don't lose your gems, you don't lose your items or keys, you just get back up from where you died, and the only thing you lose are your points. Meaning you've got infinite lives and no consequence for failure. Now, my first instinct is to see this as a bad thing. After all, without any consequence for failure, it effectively removes the challenge from the game, lessens the sense of accomplishment you get from your victories, and doesn't give you an incentive to improve your skills. Look at me go! I can run through all these enemies with reckless abandon, and there's nothing they can do about it because I don't care about my points. Perhaps it would have been beneficial if you lost your progress in the level you got a game over in. I mean, there's only 8 levels, so it wouldn't have been that punishing. Plus, it would have made it so you'd have to be a bit more mindful of the dangers around you. But you know, I was thinking about that, and the thing is, I really don't care. There are 3 reasons why I don't mind the unlimited continues. 1, the last NES game I played was TMNT 2, and I could use a break after having to do 8 runs to see the end credits. 2, the game doesn't have a password system, meaning you've gotta beat it in 1 run. And 3, the enemies are so cheap and your arsenal is so dinky that not having unlimited continues would have just lessened the experience overall. I just want to explore, damn it, I don't have any pride. Just give me my shinies and let me be on my merry little way. Eventually you'll make it to the final level, which is kind of a slog, mainly because it's the only level where there's not enough gems lying around to meet the requirement. This means you have to grind for gems by killing enemies, which is really lame. Every other level gave you more than enough gems to meet the quota, and now I have to waste my time trying to get enough gems like a streamer scraping for dimes. But eventually, you make it to the final boss, the evil wizard Malkill. Oh wait, I just realized I forgot to talk about the story. There once was a wizard named Malkill. He was pretty chill until he forgot he was a good guy. Now he's kidnapped all the maidens, including the princess, and that's bad. So you go on a journey, free all the maidens, and then leave them without any weapons or clothes like a true hero until you find the wizard and bonk his head with your churro. Unlike the previous bosses, Malkill is actually pretty tough. He's got a lot of health, replenishes that health over time, fires homing projectiles, hits hard, and never stands still. You have a very small window to attack him whenever he appears, so you better hope he's not too far away, or better yet, have him spawn on top of you. I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out where he teleports and the best spot in the arena to approach him. I eventually narrowed it down to the bottom left of the arena since at the top he spawns at impossible to reach places, and in the bottom right, the area has an even elevation that he can use against you. I was able to land some hits, and if you hit him with your sword it does a good deal of damage, but I just couldn't beat him. So I decided to take a break, and when I came back ready for the fight of my life, well, what do you know? Turns out Nintendo was right the whole time. And just like that, Wizards and Warriors is done. I have my issues with it, namely its lackluster combat, irritating enemies, and disappointing magic items, but I think its positives do make it worth at least one playthrough. The presentation is decent, the items that enhance your movement were fun, and the core gameplay loop of getting dropped into a level, collecting shinies, finding keys to unlock chests containing goodies and doors that lead to even more goodies was pretty satisfying. If your weapons packed more of a punch and the difficulty was less cheap, this could have been an awesome game. As it stands, it's a decent game, and pretty dang good for a first attempt. Second attempt. Well, now you're just being a smartass. I'd say it's worth a shot. It only took me 2.5 hours to beat. Though if you want to up the difficulty, I guess you could play for points. That's what I tried to do in my second playthrough. But considering the abundance of cheap enemies, your subpar arsenal, and the fact you need to carry 3 whole lives for all 8 levels, it shouldn't surprise you how quickly I ended up like this. Unless you're a masochist, just play the game normally. You'll beat PP, no problem. Anyways, that's all for today. I'm a Talking Pringle, and thanks for watching. Just give me my shinies and let me be on my merry little way. You piece of shit.